Okay, 7th grade, this is video 3 for lesson 12.5, and we're going to be tackling the idea of bias in math. So bias is a topic that we did learn last year in pre-algebra with our statistics and probability lessons. The idea of being fair or not fair. We definitely approached it throughout the school year in history, and I'm sure you've revisited the term in other classes as well. So for math, bias can influence opinion and can make one answer seem better than another. This can happen multiple ways. It can happen within the question itself. It can happen in the sampling method that you are using to carry out the question. It can be used in choosing your population and samples before you even get to the questioning method. So there's many ways that bias can impact your data. Okay, so let's just take a look at some different examples that we have here. So here we have problem 4. And in problem 4, we have a reporter who wants to find out what kinds of movies are most popular with local residents. The reporter asks, do you prefer exciting action movies or boring documentaries? Is this bias, and explain? So there's actually a couple of things wrong with this. The most obvious is they're using some adjectives here that are not necessary. So they are wanting you, by the way they're delivering their question, they're wanting you to respond with action movies by making them sound exciting, as opposed to documentaries, which they're making sound as boring. Now, whether that's your opinion or not, you still cannot have those in a sample question or survey question without leading to biases. Another issue is they're only allowing you to answer 2 types of movies when they're wanting to know what movies are most popular. So maybe a comedy, a rom-com, romantic, a drama. There's many other types of movies out there, but this is only restricting you to 2. So even though my answer focuses on the idea of the unnecessary adjectives, the other issue is they're restricting your responses. If you do not like action movies or documentaries, maybe you like more comic, cartoon, you're not going to want to complete the survey because it doesn't apply to you. Okay, so there, I like leading with that example because it does show bias in many different ways. Okay, so got it 4. How can the question that we just did in problem 4 be reworded so that it is not biased? Now there's going to be different options here. Here's where I also mentioned the idea that they're restricting their people that are taking the survey. So the best way to find out what movies are the most popular for local residents is to simply ask, what is your favorite kind of movie? Okay, you want to leave it open. You want to give everyone a fair chance of answering the question, along with giving them an opportunity to answer with what they want. So, okay, and got it 5. We have another way that bias can affect data. So you want to know how many of your classmates have cell phones. To determine this, you send every classmate an email asking, do you own a cell phone? How might this method of gathering data affect the results of your survey? So this one, again, there's a couple issues that could pop up. Not everyone has access to email. It might be better to do a sampling method in person when you can. It is also more likely that if a student does have a cell phone, that they would have email. This does not give everyone within the population an equal chance of being selected to take the survey. So another issue with this method is maybe they do have email, but the email address you have on hand is their spam email that they check once a month just to clear out their mailbox if they're anyone like me. So a better approach to this would be, out of all of your classmates, choose 5 at random and ask them if they have a cell phone. And depending on how many students are in your class, 5's probably way too small. So we would want to do maybe out of a class of 25, ask 10 or 15 of them. So these are just 2 examples in my notes of how bias can happen. I want to give you another approach. The actual sampling approach can be biased, not just the questioning. So for example, if we go back to the example in video 2 where it asks about a question referring to your students in your school, but then you go to the mall to take the survey, that would be a bad type of sampling, which is going to lead you to bad information. So that could be considered a bias as well, because you're not including people just from within your population. So biases can happen in all forms. You just essentially want to think, is this going to mess up my data? Is this going to give me data that doesn't truly reflect my population? If the answers are yes, then that would be bias. And that, ladies and gentlemen, wraps up notes for 12.5. If you have any other questions, make sure you email me.